Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 126 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about how we can lend a hand to our fellow members in the criminal defense bar, how we can be of assistance to our colleagues and make ourselves valuable to the criminal defense bar as a whole. This is an episode about teamwork. This is a team game. If we want to up the level of service for clients, for those charged with criminal offenses, traffic tickets in North Carolina, then this is something that we have to take a total approach to, a community approach to, a collegial approach to. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Before I dive into today's episode, I wanted to share with you a CLE opportunity that is coming up in just over a month from now on October the 14th and 15th in Wilmington, North Carolina. There is a criminal law CLE that is being offered through the Center for Legal Education and Advocacy. If you go to their website, which is center4legaled.com, that is center, spelled out, center4legaled.com, you will find a registration page for this CLE. Discuss that the CLE topics is going to include state and federal firearms law, marijuana and pharmacology of THC, North Carolina DMV protocols and procedures, and then there will also be hours for ethics and technology. So you get those taken care of. The speakers that are lined up for the CLE are incredible. This is hosted by John Fanny, Cole Williams, Les Robinson, and Bill Powers. So you know you're going to be getting some meat and potatoes when it comes to legal education when you have that star-packed bunch hosting this CLE. So go to that website and check out this CLE. It's Judges Conference Week, so you're not going to have a issue in terms of scheduling. It's only a month out from now, and maybe you're thinking, well, I don't know that I can move cases. This was smartly planned for Judges Conference, so you don't have an excuse. So go sign up for it right now and get some good education in. So what we're talking about on today's episode is, again, how can we help the fellow members in our local bar? And so I've got a list of 10 ways that you can be of assistance to your colleagues and help your local criminal defense lawyers out. So I'm just going to go through this list, a list of 10 items. Number one, reach out to, or if somebody reaches out to you about covering a continuance, getting a limited driving privilege or an expunction, help out if that comes across your plate, whether it's through a text message, whether it's through some sort of a local listserv. This is something that I feel like as lawyers, we are grossly underutilizing. If you are a busy district court, traffic, criminal attorney, you're hopping around, multiple counties a day very regularly. And if you've got just a easy continuance on a traffic ticket, or you've got a limited privilege that you need to get in a specific county, we, I think, are not using one another enough to help get those type of things done. It's kind of crazy to drive, 45 minutes out to a neighboring county and 45 minutes back to get a continuance on a speeding ticket, if you can have a friend, a colleague get that done for you, that's already in that courtroom, there's no issue with the DA or judge continuing this case. I think we really grossly underutilize the value add of having people that can kind of cover those minor things for us. So if you've got a case that you need help with, reach out to other people in the community. I know that I do that very frequently with members of our local bar. I have people asking me to help cover counties when they've got a conflict in terms of where they need to be. This happens in our other offices as well. Be a resource. Be a resource to those attorneys that are in your bar that just need help with an easy fix. So lend assistance on those easy to cover counties that can save a fellow attorney 2, 3, 4 hours of their time by the time they drive out to court, sit around waiting for their case to be handled or continued or whatever it might be. Be that person that steps up and helps out in that situation. Number 2, send a text update if you have the ability to a colleague who has a case going on in the courtroom. They're not there yet, and there's something odd about the case. So if you're sitting in court waiting on your case to be called, and a defendant's name gets called up, they say, the judge says, "Who's representing you?" or the DA says, "Who's representing you?" Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith is not in the courtroom. And then there's some sort of odd exchange, or the client appears particularly upset about them not being in court, Mr. Smith not being in court, or there is a kind of, you see a bunch of officers. It looks like they've got this thing teed up for trial. The judge is trying to get an estimate. Just send a quick text to that attorney. If you have Mr. Smith's phone number, say, "Hey, just wanted to let you know you've got, this defendant on the counter today. It looks like the DA's got their officers lined up for trial. Just wanted to give you a heads up." Maybe Mr. Smith knows that already. Maybe the attorney already knows what's going on with the case, already has this, but it's helpful if there seems to be something unusual about a case and the attorney that appears to be representing the person isn't in the courtroom. Send a quick heads up by text to that attorney if you have their phone number. I've had a number of attorneys do this for me. I've done the same thing for other attorneys, and it is incredibly helpful. There's been a couple of times when something had kind of like fallen off my radar, when there was particularly heated client that we were then able to call out to, reach out to. It really saved a tremendous amount of kind of unnecessary frustration or time on the DA's end. So reach out to the fellow people in your bar. I think the DAs that I work with do this pretty regularly for me as well. Hey, just want to let you know, we just called up this client. They're present. Just want to give you a heads up. But again, if there's something unusual that seems a little bit out of the ordinary about a case, or just something that is of note, send a quick note to the attorney that is assigned on the case, or that is the attorney of counsel on the case, attorney of record on the case. Just send a quick note and let them know what's going on and what kind of activity is going on the docket that morning. Maybe they can shoot a quick text back that says, "Hey, I'm in Superior Court in Henderson County. I'm not going to get there. I sent a motion to continue. It must not have been arrived. Could you tell the DA?" Maybe that's how Mr. Smith responds. And now you can maybe communicate quickly to the DA, "Hey, look, I just got this text back. It looks like he's already sent in a motion to continue. He is in court in another county. Just wanted to verify, that's what's going on." You can save everybody in the courtroom a tremendous amount of time by just a quick message. So be that person that is kind of on the front end of reaching out. Again, that's not your responsibility. You're not required to do that. You don't have to do anything, but this is what members of the bar that have one another's back do. And so if we're trying to build collegiality in our in our local bars, this is an easy way to make that happen. Number 3, bounce a case off of another lawyer. I talk about this all the time on the podcast, so I'm not going to get into this too much. But while you're sitting in the courtroom, ask another attorney that's sitting next to you, hey, what do you got going on today? When they explain that, say, what issues are you trying to bring out? Do a little bit of digging. See if you can't help bring some new ideas to your colleagues' case preparation. See if you can't find some different legal issue that might be they might be missing. If somebody reaches out to you by text or phone and says, "Hey, I wanted to bounce a case off you. Do you mind if I put this on you for a second?" Get that question answered. And I don't think I've ever had an attorney that I've reached out to on that front not help me. I get the sense I have, a fair amount of calls that come in from other lawyers that, hey, Jake, you mind if I bounce a quick question off of you regarding this upcoming sentencing hearing that I have? No, I don't mind. I mean, that's what we're here for. That, there's no need to apologize or feel like you're putting me out. I mean, we're here to help one another. So I take advantage of that routinely. So again, being a good member of the local bar means helping your fellow lawyers when they need help. And I think an easy way to start that is to just kind of give the invitation. It doesn't mean you got to text everybody that you know and say, hey, if you ever have a question about a case, give me a buzz. I'm happy to help. But by asking this question kind of in a non-formal setting in the courtroom, when you're just sitting waiting for cases to be called, basically reaching out and saying, hey, what do you got going on today? Tell me about it. Let's see what can be done. Great way to help your fellow bar members prepare their cases better. Number 4, this is a big one that I don't see a lot of people do, and that is ask for help during trial. Normally, when you're in trial, you are the lone ranger when it comes to defending your client in the courtroom. And maybe there's one DA, maybe there's 2 or 3. I've had 3 or 4 district court DAs in a trial before, just kind of sitting and watching, and they're communicating back and forth about the case. So it feels like you're the underdog sometimes when you got all of these DAs on the other side, even if it's just the one DA. You're kind of on level playing field. And what I think we often forget is that very routinely when we're trying a case, there are other members of the bar sitting right behind us, right behind where the defense table is, waiting for their cases to be called, waiting for their trial to be heard, and tap into them. I mean, if you've got a trial and you are, asking questions of the officer before you're finished asking questions, say, Your Honor, may I have just a moment? Turn around and talk to all of these great lawyers that are in the courtroom and ask them, hey, think I left anything on the table? The place that I learned this from is Al Messer, who was on the podcast back on episodes 92 and 93, someone I consider to be one of the best DWI lawyers in the state. Had a probable cause hearing a couple years back, was asking questions. But before he finished his questioning the officer, he asked the judge for a moment, turned around and asked myself and another member of the local bar here in Asheville, hey, you guys got any other thing? Do you think I missed anything? And I was kind of taken aback. I mean, here I am, somebody with much less experience trying these cases than Al had. And yet, he wasn't about, pride or trying to pretend like he had it, always all figured out. His humility and wanting to do the best job for his client allowed him to turn around and say, hey, if I'm missing something, let me know. And from the moment that happened, I kind of have started to really change that approach in terms of my trying a case in the courtroom. Why not ask these other lawyers, if there are any in the courtroom, for their advice. I mean, it's, again, maybe they don't know the case inside and out, but if you've missed something, it's crazy not to ask for that help. When you've got other attorneys, criminal defense lawyers in the bar. And I've seen a lot of that over the years of back and forth mid-trial between criminal defense lawyers. And it always brings me such such a great feeling to see this back and forth between members of the bar and helping each other out in real time. There's a real team aspect to trying the case, and it's fun. I mean, it's cool because we so often share our war stories and kind of bounce cases off of each other outside of the courtroom. But it's cool to have other people that are really your co-counsel, can be your co-counsel on the case in real time in the courtroom. So don't be too proud to ask for help real time on a trial in a courtroom. I have seen some of who I consider to be the greatest lawyers in our area doing that, and it really has allowed to me for an attitude, a culture of education, a culture of teamwork, and something that I think we should routinely do wherever we are practicing. Number 5, check on your sisters and brothers in the criminal defense bar. Go back at some point, take a listen to episode 65 that we did with Holden Clark about mental health. And one of the things that Holden was suggesting that I think is a very powerful thing is that we interact with our colleagues so often, and we get a sense of, are these people doing well? Are they having an off day? Are they, having a series of off days? And if you get the sense that somebody seems down, seems depressed, seems to be anxious on some sort of a regular basis, they are acting out of the ordinary, take the time to reach out to that colleague and just say, hey, just wanted to check in, see how life is treating you. How's your practice going? How's your family doing? Be a good human being to your fellow bar members. We deal with a lot of stress as lawyers, and it's important to just reach out to anybody that appears to be going through a difficult time, and we have a good pulse on that, given that we are in close contact on such a frequent basis. Number 6, this is one that I've seen a lot of other attorneys do really well. When you are in line, ask the person behind you what they are there for. And what I mean by that is this: when you're in line to talk to the DA or to kind of get a gauge on the calendar, and every county is different, so you may see this done differently in different places. But if there's a way for you to reach out to another, or if you're in line to talk to the DA, and the person behind you appears to only have like one shuck in their hand, or just doesn't seem to really maybe have much going on, really, even if they did. But reach out to the person behind you. Maybe there's a line of 10 people. You don't have to go down the entire line unless you want to just be a super nice person. But reach out to the person behind you and just say, hey, what do you got going on today? Oh, you're just continuing a speeding ticket. Okay, well, I've got 5. So why don't you go ahead and just talk to the DA real quick? There's an attorney in town, VJ Nathan, that handles a lot of traffic tickets. And so they have a admin traffic day in Buncombe County, or really an admin week. And VJ multiple times has done this when I've come into the courtroom. He's got, several traffic cases. I'm just trying to continue one thing. And VJ will always just say, hey, what you got going on? Oh, why don't you just go ahead and step in front of me? Why don't you just go ahead and ask the DA real quick? And it's always something that to me is such a nice move. I mean, it really, every time that he's done that, it's been such a breath of fresh air, because you're really just communicating to your fellow bar member that their time is important. And I've tried to do that myself when I'm standing in line as well. If I've got a few things or maybe a complicated case that I need to talk to the DA about, if I can just let this person behind me get their one continuance and get on to the next county, get back to the office, whatever it might be. That can be a huge benefit, and something that is not often or not forgotten anytime soon. So take that moment to just ask the person that is in line, the attorney that's in line behind you, what you got going on. All right, well, why don't you just go ahead? I've got a few things that I need to talk to the DA about. Just knock that thing out. Number 7, if you have the opportunity to introduce a colleague to a DA or to a judge, take that opportunity. So again, we practice in multiple counties, and maybe you see, as I see, the same faces in multiple counties. Some counties, I think there's this kind of very, very much like home cooking. If you're not a local attorney, you're not invited to the party. And that's a little bit crazy, because once we get our license in North Carolina, we are admitted to practice statewide, right? We're allowed to practice anywhere in the state of North Carolina. We're not allowed to practice in South Carolina because we're not admitted there. We're not allowed to practice in Virginia, but anywhere in the state, we're allowed to practice. And yet, if in some bars, fortunately, this is not the case in Buncombe County, but in some bars, if you're an outsider coming into the courthouse, you are not necessarily treated very well. And again, this varies jurisdiction by jurisdiction. I think a lot of jurisdictions now are very welcoming in terms of new members of the bar or somebody that is handling cases in multiple counties. But many traffic and district court lawyers are moving from one county to the next on any given day, handling a couple of speeding tickets and then a DWI in this county and a probation violation over here. That's just the way that we operate as district court lawyers. And so if you see one of these familiar faces in a county that you don't normally see them in, so you routinely see this attorney in county A, but here you are today in county B, and this same lawyer that you get to see on a regular basis in county A looks lost. They just look like they have no idea what's going on. Take a moment, walk them up to the DA and say, "Hey, this is my bud from Buncombe. I just wanted to let you know who this person is, and you definitely can expect this guy to give you a rough time," or whatever it is that you want to kind of use to break the ice. But introduce them to the DA, and that way the DA knows, okay, well, this this guy that I trusts trust this other this other fella or gal, and then do the same thing with the judge. Take a second to just, if they say, if your colleague or friend says, "Hey, what do you think this judge is going to do with this?" Just take a minute. Have you ever done anything in front of this judge? No, I haven't. Why don't I introduce you to the judge before calendar call or at a break or whatever it might be. It's really nice. I mean, to have somebody give you that kind of introduction, be not so foreign, not so forced. So take a minute. If you have the opportunity that you, again, see a colleague from another county in a place that they're not used to practicing in, introduce them to the DA, introduce them to the judge. Number 8, try at all costs to avoid speaking ill of your colleagues to a prospective client. I every once in a while will have a client that calls up and says, "Hey, I hired this lawyer on my case. I'm not happy with what they're doing. I want you to take a second look at this and see what you think." And my plan with that client is almost always to uplift that other lawyer in the community. At the very least, not say anything bad about that other lawyer, but more often than not, I'll just say, "Hey, you got this attorney involved on your case. That guy knows what he's doing. He's worked hard. He does a lot of appeals." I'll go out of my way to try to tell them, "Hey, you've got a good lawyer on your case. And it's something that I think is I've seen this in my practice with other lawyers in our local bar, that they really just go out of their way to push, to elevate one another, to kind of uplift one another. There was a judge, federal judge here in Asheville, Judge Howe, and I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast at some point in the past. But one thing that I just loved about Judge Howe is that he would elevate each lawyer that came up in front of him, in front of the client. You would come up for sentencing, and Judge Howe, it was one of the greatest parts of practicing, because he would look at the client and say, "Mr. Johnson, I just want you to know you've made a really good decision about your lawyer. Mr. Minnick is really well respected in the local community, and I just want to applaud you on your choice of lawyer." And then Judge Howe would do this with the next three attorneys that would come up for their case. So the key was to be the first one up in front of Judge Howe, because then your client was like, "Oh wow, this guy is great." And then if you're number four, it's a little bit less impressive. But I will say it really did. It did make a difference in terms of the feel of the courtroom, and obviously the client feeling like they've done well in terms of trying to assess every angle. So again, I'm not saying if there's a particularly crappy lawyer in the area, and I think that they are few and far between, it doesn't mean you go out of your way to applaud that person and say, well, yeah, this person is the greatest on earth. You don't have to lie about that to your client. But I've had many times where a prospective client has called me on a DWI case, and they've got, in my opinion, one of our better attorneys in Asheville already on the case, and I'm just kind of like, you've got a great lawyer on your case. There's no reason really to doubt what they're telling you. They've looked at the discovery, they've got the video, they've done their due diligence. I mean, they're really, you're in good hands. There's no reason to question the advice that you're getting, or at least from my perspective, there's no reason for me to question what this lawyer is telling you. So, I think it would be, it's always helpful to me to have that be the kind of default position, is just to really go out of our way to avoid throwing one another under the bus, to do everything that we can to elevate each other in the community. Number 9, let your local bar know about educational opportunities. I think so often these educational opportunities that are done throughout the state are underattended, simply because word of mouth and grassroots kind of spread of the information is not happening. If you know about a good CLE, if you know about a good educational opportunity that is coming up, do everything you can to share that with your colleagues. I mean, share it on a listserv, share it on an individual basis, face to face. Hey, that we've got this great CLE opportunity coming up. You get a lot out of it if you're looking for some CLE hours. So, try to be a good marketer of the CLEs that we have in North Carolina that are particularly appropriate to criminal defense practice. And finally, number 10, work at all, whenever possible as a collective. Work whenever possible as a collective. I'm going to reference the episode that I did with Megan Burke. This was the value of a strong criminal defense bar, episode number 46. And to me, there is a real power in a collective voice. When you are trying to change local procedures, local rules, the way that practice is done on a day-to-day basis in the courtroom, it's way easier to do that as a collective than to try to do it as an individual. And that this is part of the reason why all of these prior tips are so important, is because it allows for us to have a better way of going forward with a united voice on the criminal defense front. So whenever possible, try to act as a collective group within your local county or local jurisdiction. So I hope you found those tips for supporting your colleagues, supporting your local bar members helpful, and I look forward to speaking with you again next time. If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you are listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.